Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this clip, I'd like to talk to you about two things. First of all, the importance of being emotional in life, emotional about absolutely everything, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. And second of all, how to meet the requirements for successful metaphysical prayer for the purposes of manifesting what you want. Now, first of all, when I talk about being emotional, I mean using your body of consciousness to direct and guide you in absolutely every area of your life. It could be making an important decision, such as starting a company or buying a new home, or it could be something that seems quite trivial, such as whether or not to start a new diet. You can use your body of consciousness to direct you in absolutely every way. The way we do that is to either ask a question or to make a statement, or just allow our attention and focus to come to rest on something and notice what we feel in response to doing that. Now, remember, I've spoken about this on this channel. If the response you get, the physical response you get, is a sensation beneath the solar plexus, beneath the diaphragm, then that is a signal that you are not to take a decision or to have, be, or do something in that moment. The no could be slightly subtle, like a flutter in the stomach, or it could be a strong no, like a cramp or a knot in the stomach. The important thing is that you listen to your body of consciousness. I remember Neville Goddard talking about results that come about by violence, which means bypassing that step or ignoring the signal that we're being told and pressing ahead with something just because we want it. When that happens, we often find ourselves in very, very difficult situations and not knowing what to do. So it's always best to allow your body of consciousness to take control. Similarly, if you feel a physical response above your solar plexus, above your diaphragm, then that's a signal that you are free to take whatever step you wish to take, to be, do, and have whatever it is you wish to be, do, or have. Again, the sensation could be subtle or it could be stronger. It could be a feeling of expansion around your heart or a strong tickle in the epiglottis region of your throat. But those are all signals that you are free to take a step. Now, going back to the nose, it could be that it's a no in that moment. So you are always free to check back as long as you are obeying your obeying the response that you get, obeying your body of consciousness. Sorry, what happened to me just obeying your body of consciousness in that moment. Yeses will not become no's, but no's can become yes. So always check in. The reason we do this is because our body of consciousness knows so much more than our human aspect does. The lens through which we view the world, through which we assess our lived experience in the world, is very limited. It's restrictive. We don't always know what the wider implications are for a decision we make, for something we do, how it can impact or affect other people. Our body of consciousness does, because remember, it is part of the unified whole of everything. So doing this ensures that we are always acting in our own best interests and in the best interests of others. Not only that, but when we start to do this, eventually that will become our default. That means, by which I mean that our body of consciousness is the thing that is directing us in life. And when that happens, once we are familiar or fluent in use of the spiritual language of emotion, once we are totally clear about what the signals we receive mean and how to make those signals and those impressions ourselves, we won't actually need to use any technique of metaphysical prayer when it comes to manifesting what we want. We will be able at will to evoke any emotion we need to bring about some objective reality in our lives. Whatever it is that we're trying to manifest, in other words, we'll be able to do that simply by making the appropriate impression on consciousness. So it's certainly worth doing this. Just become aware of your feelings about absolutely everything in your world. Always use your body of consciousness as the barometer to check in on whether or not you should make a decision or take a certain step. Now, speaking of techniques of metaphysical prayer, which is the second thing I want to talk about, there's a lot said about why we are able to manifest or not. And I'm not going to address any of those sorts of issues or themes, but it's important for us to know that when it comes to metaphysical prayer, there are certain physical conditions that need to be met. So remember, in the realm of cause, the things we do physically are translated into emotional impressions that are made on consciousness. So when it comes to metaphysical prayer, what we need to do on the human side is to achieve the state of happy expectation before we start the process. Sometimes people just sit down and think, okay, I need something. They've misinterpreted a desire as something they really want or something they feel that they urgently need. And they sit down in that frame of mind and try to go into the silence or construct a scene or do whatever it is that, say, Neville Goddard has instructed them to do. And then they find they don't get the outcome that they're looking for. That's because they are not making the correct, or you are not making the correct impression on consciousness. On the human side, the state of happy expectation is the impression that needs to be made to get the ball rolling. So if you are unsure about whether or not you are in the correct frame of mind, first of all, you want to check in on your desire and whether you are viewing it as something you need, something you are anxious of having, or whether you know that this is something that you have been gifted and that is awaiting expression through you. So that's something you need to be aware of. If you think that this is something you really want, then you want to start to tell yourself that no, this is not something I want, this is something I already have. You can actually repeat that phrase to yourself feelingly, just telling yourself, yes, this is something I have, I know I have it, and so on. That can help to make some shifts. But most importantly, when it comes to getting into the right frame of mind, this is what you're going to do. So you're going to take a notepad and pen and you're going to sit in a chair and then just become aware of what you're feeling before you start whatever technique of prayer you're about to use. Now, we all know how we feel when we're happy. We know how we feel when we're sad, when we're relaxed, when we're tense, and so on. So any feeling you become aware of, you're going to turn that feeling into language and write it down. For example, if you are tense, if you are anxious, just write the word tense or anxious, or you can say, I feel, and then use the appropriate word to describe what you're feeling. It's worth investing the time to do this because you're talking about getting the results that you want. So the investment of time really pales into insignificance when you compare it to your desire becoming an objective reality. Once you've completed that process, you look down at that piece of paper, you can decide on the basis of the list whether or not you want to proceed and go ahead with the prayer. And I'm going to speak about that in just a moment. If you are not in the correct frame of mind, you're going to draw a line, a physical line, through all of the negative emotions on the page. And then you are going to make a list of all of the emotions you feel would constitute you reaching a state of happy expectations. Now, you can do this by literally saying happy, love, whatever. Remember, your body of consciousness is going to respond to you and say, yes, that's on the list. Or no, you don't need that one. Okay, so for example, you could write excited and you get a sensation beneath your solar plexus or beneath your diaphragm. No, that's not what you need. You can write love, and it is what you need because it registers above your diaphragm. So you keep making this list. Yes, no, yes, no. And then don't continue this on and on and on and on. You just want to get to a point. Let's say it takes about another 10 minutes. You just want to get to a point where you feel elated or hopeful about the process you're about to engage in. You can always check in on whether or not you need to continue. Do I need to continue? You might get if you get that above the solar plexus, if you feel happy, then you actually don't need to continue. If you get a feeling, so maybe we won't ask, do I need to continue? You could say, is this enough? That might be clearer. So make the statement something like, is this enough? Or is this list complete? Something that will give you a yes or no answer. So forget that, is this list, is this enough? Is this list complete? And check in. If it's not, go a little bit more. You don't want to feel any anxiety or anxiousness. You want to be feeling relaxed all the time. Okay, so just make sure that you are checking in with your body of consciousness. So remember, as I say, this does take a little bit of time, but it's certainly worth the investment. Now, this is something that will help you get into the correct frame of mind. You're going to use what Neville refers to as touching the foundation stone. And the chapter, The Foundation Stone, can be found in his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune. I'll put a link to that book where you can get it on Amazon beneath this video. And then you're going to ask yourself, how would I feel if I were? So remember, there's lots of different steps to this. First, you want to assess how you feel before you start the process. And then you want to make the list to make sure that you have met the requirements for proceeding onto the next stage of the metaphysical prayer. And then you're going to ask, how would I feel if I were? And just allow yourself to feel whatever comes back in response to that question. So how would I feel if I were excited? How would I feel? So remember, you've made this list, which is telling you the frame of mind you need to be in before you start the prayer. And if anything is missing, if you don't feel any of those sensations or those emotions, then you go on to ask, how would I feel if I were? Now, sometimes you could jump to, how would I feel if I were in the correct frame of mind for this metaphysical prayer? But if you're not familiar with this, you haven't practiced this enough, then these additional steps are perhaps more useful to you. But if you feel confident, you can go straight to, how would I feel if I were in the right frame of mind for this metaphysical prayer? Okay, once you are in the correct frame of mind, then you can proceed. You've opened the door, if you like. And then what will happen is, when you are using your senses subjectively, you will begin to feel that sensual arousal that Neville describes. Very often that won't happen unless you make sure that you meet those requirements first. When you use your senses subjectively and you feel the sensual arousal that Neville has described, you will move on, you'll progress to that climatic point. It won't happen without it. So remember, everything we do on this side is physical code for some essential emotion that needs to be impressed upon consciousness in order for consciousness to give us back what we're looking for or what we want. So as I say, this does take a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of practice. But the more you become used to using the spiritual language of emotion, you are actually going to do away with all of these steps eventually. It is really worth treating metaphysical prayer in this way, handling it in this way, giving it the reverence and the respect that it deserves. And in that way, you are guaranteeing that you get the outcomes that you are looking for. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, it's not possible to bypass the important step of making sure that you are in the correct frame of mind before you undertake that technique of prayer. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to have the results that you are looking for. I am speaking on the basis of experience, many years of experience. In my own personal life, I now no longer need to use techniques of metaphysical prayer, because I've reached the point of being able to communicate directly with consciousness using my own unique voice. So I'm encouraging you to do this, because this is something that I have read, I have extracted from Neville's teachings and have proven for myself and know that they work. That is the basis of what I'm sharing with you. So I encourage you to give this a go. I would say ask questions. I do get a lot of questions. If you need any clarification about a particular word or phrase or element of what I've described, then please try to condense that question to no more than 2 sentences, which you can leave in the comments below. I actually make a note of the questions and I'm working my way through them. So if I don't get back to you immediately, it doesn't mean I'm not going to get back to you at all. I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I look forward to being with you in the next upload.